Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please do not try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we have a whole gaggle of people in at the moment. We've got Arwin, Ranty and Sleeping Warrior. How are you all doing, gentlemen?
All is good, all is good.
All is well.
There's my notify saying that you're live, it's working again.
Woohoo! Well, hey, go for it, Google. Tell everyone we're live. Yay.
And share. That means you don't always get me on.
That's it, exactly. So we've got Ranty today, and you're the man of the moment. Everyone, Globe Earther and Flat Earther, is saying how wonderful you are because you're going out making these observations, making it seem like we're all lazy and you're wonderful, which is great. And trying to turn us all against you.
You know, they can carry on doing that all day long. Happy.
Yeah.
Praise,
as if we're going to start hating you because you're actually doing some work, and as if we're ever going to think that you're the only one doing it. It's nonsense. We're very grateful to you, though, Ranty. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I only do about 95%, I would say.
You're just playing into their hands, Ranty. That's all you're doing.
Damn it! As if I should go out and get flat Earth proof. That's not fair, is it?
Outrageous, mate. Outrageous. So, what do you know?
I know that I went a little bit further away, which we've briefly talked about, haven't we? And I put a composite together. It's not the best composite in the world. I'll be the first to hold my hand up and say that.
Did you see the show last night, Ranty?
Sorry?
Did you see the show last night?
Yeah, briefly. I saw the first 30 minutes, and then I saw that Sly Sparkane had done a hangout too, so I started watching his. So I was like flicking between the two. I haven't finished watching either yet.
Sly who?
Slimy Sparkane. Never
heard of him.
Okay. Well, anyway, the point is I did a composite. I've put a composite together. It's, I'd say, probably within 3 or 4 degrees of accuracy. It was my first throw at it because there's a lot of pieces to put together to get that puzzle. But essentially, it's very usable and workable. And I think you've been doing some work on it as well, haven't you, Anthony? Matching it up with Peak Finder.
I was speaking with GeoStreamer, and GeoStreamer told me that if... Oh, hang on. We're not sharing the link publicly yet, are we?
Oh, no? Yet, no.
Great. Let us know when it does go public, because I've not got the other page open yet.
Will do.
GeoStreamer... Oh, let me just see who that is. 1 second, I need to grab this. I shall be back with you.
It's typical that the most important detail we are going to explain today was literally a hair away from being explained by Anthony a moment ago, and now he's taking a phone call. But yeah, prick your ears up, because what he's about to explain is, in my opinion, just it beggars belief what's actually going on with some of these programs to convince people you live on a sphere, and the cognitive dissonance involved from the people who utilize these tools is also unbelievable. You know, I don't know. It just kind of, you know, it's happening. You tell people all about cognitive dissonance all the time, and you're talking about it generally speaking. But yet, when you actually see it, it still makes me aghast, a loss for words that people are like this. You can't fathom it. But there we go.
Well, that's right. It's cognitive dissonance. You can't see it if you have it.
Yeah, oh, and I'd also like to point out as well, whilst we're here, is that on the day when I went to do the observation from underneath the pier, it wasn't a very good day in weather-wise. It was mainly, the sun was out, but it just didn't appear like it was very clear. So I bought a tape, I think it was a 20-meter tape, and I went to measure the height of the pier. And it was only when I was on the pier that I actually saw the mountains in the background. They were fading in and out. You know, 1 second you could see them, the next they were completely whitewashed. You know, you couldn't see a thing. So I wasn't even sure whether I'd actually capture any of the mountains. And in the evening time, when I went along and did it from further away, again, it was the same sort of conditions. It wasn't what I would call pristine, clear weather. So whatever the observations, conclusions we can come to with what I've gathered at the moment can only be improved upon when the weather gets better and we get days where it's much clearer.
Well, to be honest,
this is a start.
I don't think it needs to get much clearer. I think that what we've got already is more than enough to show that the Earth's not actually a ball. I don't mean to interrupt. Can I?
No, sure, yeah. I'm happy for you to take over.
Yeah, you're presenting.
Geo basically, I was speaking to GeoStreamer on Peak Finder, and basically he said to me that, well, I told him that the mountains that we were trying to identify didn't appear on Peak Finder unless we get a lot closer to it. And he said, well, just change your elevation then. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, there's an option to change the elevation. Nathan, am I sharing at the minute, Nathan?
You are?
So what I've done is, Ranty's given us the composite from Peak Finder, and the composite is like, it's a really long, wide file again, but it gives us all the topography of what we're looking at. And what I've done is I've put in the Cleveland's Beach from where he was at the time.
It was actually further away than that. It was another 1.5 miles further back, but it wouldn't recognise the location, the GPS, or the actual specifics that I gave it. So I had to type in Cleveland's Beach instead. Yeah,
it's all right. We can give them a 1.5 miles on the distance. It's not going to make any difference.
Well, 1.5 miles, it's worse for us because I was actually 1.5 miles further away than Cleveland's Beach, but it's on the same line of sight.
Yeah, but with the amount of flatness that we see, then we can afford to lose the 1.5 miles, and we'll give it to them like happily, because this is where we can claim that back later on when it comes to pixels here and pixels there, or pixels if you're going to be odd with the way it pronounces it. But in any event, the point is this: when you type in Cleveland's Beach, right, it gives you the elevation from 0, which is essentially where Ranty's at, 10 feet maybe, or whatever.
17 feet.
17 feet, but you can't see that. 17 feet, all right, but you can't see that at the low elevation. You've got to put the elevation up to 20 meters, and that's the next gap up, which goes up to 70 feet. Now, there's no way Ranty's at 70 feet. You can have 20, but he's nowhere near 70. But of course, by doing this, what you're actually doing is negating the claim of the curve of the Earth by changing your elevation height to be able to see these things on Peak Finder, because you can't see them before they've gone behind the curve of the Earth. You are negating the curve of the Earth on the model to be able to see these things, right? Ranty's not at 70 feet. Ranty's at 20. So by doing this, you disprove that we live on a ball, because you can't see these mountains unless you do that. Now, I said to GeoStreamer, I said, does that not cause you an issue? He said, no. Well, why not? Well, because it's completely acceptable for it to be a problem with the computer software. And I'm like, no, not at all. The problem is, you are literally countering the curvature of the Earth by doing this. And it didn't twig with him. Now, for me, that's a glaringly, massively important factor. And Geo puts it down to a software issue. Yet this is claimed to be reliable because it's based on whatever satellite telemetry data or whatever nonsense. But principally, he doesn't have a problem with this. Well, this is a real problem because you are negating the curvature of the Earth on your model by doing this. In real world, of course, we don't do this. How long are you going to be?
I want to know why it's even there, because you can put your exact location in. Well, there or thereabouts, you can put a street name in, you can put a pier name in, you can put a certain beach in, and it knows how high you are. It sets it, presumably, as soon as you put that location in. It's not going to set you 200 feet below sea level. It's just not going to do that. It's going to put you roughly at the height you're at. So other than, who's going to need extra height at a given location? Why on earth would you need that?
Yeah. I agree. This feature shouldn't even exist on Peak Finder, because you're supposed to be identifying mountains on a ball, right? So why is there the elevation variation? Well, maybe you could argue that you wanted to be seeing it from a parachute or something like that, some nonsense like that. Well, whatever. The point is, to do that, make that change there, you are countering the ball. So really, all we need to do is click the 0, which is the default position. And then you see that the 0 is that's supposed to be 0 degrees. And then the dotted line underneath is meant to be the refracted horizon. So this gives you a guide. It shows you where true horizontal is, which is the solid line, and then the dotted line is supposed to be the horizon per refraction, right? But none of it is visible, and this is the direction of sight. So then what we do is we move it up by one little notch, which is the next interval that we can move it up, which takes him up to 70 feet, which is a huge difference to jump from like sea level right up to 70 feet. I mean, that's huge. So then we click it again. Shut up. Then we go back to 170 degrees or so, which is around about here, and we zoom in.
It's about 180 in it, I think.
Yeah, 180, I think it might have been. Here we go. There's Moel Famau. Right, so from Cleveleys Beach, right, we can see that there is a little bit of land in the foreground, and we've got this Moel Famau in the background. So what we then need to do, I'll have to remind myself of what this does. I can't remember what that does. Oh, that's just to do with the thing. Right, just hang on a sec while I deal with these dogs. You in here. Come on. Go on. Right, so from Cleveleys Beach, the first one that we can see, roughly, is this Moel Famau, right? So we're trying to find Moel Famau because there's land in the foreground that is obstructing its view, and I'm guessing, Ranty, does any of this seem to make sense? The reason I ask is...
You need to go high. You need to increase your elevation to, I believe, 60 meters to see roughly what I saw.
Maybe it is. No, this 180. The dogs have been removed. All right, so 180. Where's Moel Famau? There it is. Right, so zoom in a bit. So this is the bearing of this line. If I show you the bearing of this line, show elevation profiles, properties. The bearing should be in here somewhere. It's not showing it, is it? Anyway, the bearing's around about 180 degrees, 170, 180 degrees.
Essentially, so what we're looking at here, can you see the lines so that everyone knows where the hard horizon should be? So if you can make that into one big screen, forget split screening it for a moment.
Well, hang on. The point I want to show is that at this point...
Yeah. No, but already we've increased the elevation to 60 meters, but it still shows that there's mountains beneath the hard horizon. Is that correct?
Correct. The dotted line is the horizon, and then the hard line underneath is the... I can't even see the hard horizon on that now. It's covered by the land. But all this is meant to be on the horizon, right? I think the hard horizon line is... Can't even work it out.
Well, when you scroll across to the right, you'll see that some of the mountains shouldn't be even visible at 60 meters in elevation, but we're still seeing them.
Well, they're below the 0 point, which they say the refracted horizon is always like a quarter of a degree or something below it because of the effects of refraction, which... So anyway, but point being, these are all supposed to be, even at this elevation, they're supposed to be pretty much either on or behind the curve of the Earth, because that's what it's saying. There's the actual horizon, and then I don't know where that line's gone for the actual the other horizon, but that's bizarre. But anyway, so let's zoom back in.
I mean, none of this makes any sense on account of the fact we're having to change things. Sorry, Anthony, we're having to change things. So, you know, this dotted line is kind of irrelevant because when you actually set it to the height that you're at, none of it's seen at all. So it's like, we've got people in the chat saying the dotted line is this, that, and the other. And it's like, who cares? We've literally had to fudge this software just so we can see stuff that's in a photograph. So who gives a crap what any of the actual references are? It's meaningless.
Yeah. Well, the point is these things are in the picture and it's not easy for us to pick them off because they're behind the curve of the Earth on the model. So we have to make the model work. That is the point. We are fudging the maths to make it work. Maybe if we pull it up a bit higher, 100 meters, because I'm not getting the elevation.
I just need to negate some more of this curve that's in the software, but not there in real life. That's what we're doing. We're going higher to negate a curve the software, according to GeoStreber, thinks is there. Well, it isn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the real point. So we are compensating the curve of the Earth, but we see it in the real picture. So right, here we go. So Moel Famau, there we go. Right, so now we can identify the mountains, right? But we're at the elevation of 100 meters or 300 feet. Now, in real world, we don't have to do that. This is on the beach, right? That in itself debunks that we live on a ball. So we don't even have to go any further than that. Now, it becomes an issue because we have... Hang on a sec. We have all these mountains that are still below the perfect horizon, but we can identify them now. We've at least got half a chance. So we start off with some nondescript land that we can't really tell.
I don't believe that's actually in the image, though.
Until we get to this part here. That's the first point that we can see that looks like we might be able to identify it. So it could be this point down here. Could be this point down here. So we'll go along and see what else we can see. See, it comes along, and then we see that it drops like a nose on a plane. So the bit where it drops on the nose like a plane could be that bit. Could be that bit. It's probably that bit. So we'll look at that bit there and see, does the rest of the topography match? So it goes low, and then what does it next do? It starts to rise. So it looks like it might be this bit that we're looking at here now. So let's see if there's anything distinguishable about the land. So it goes a little bit higher. So if we're going to there, it goes a little bit higher. Is there another peak afterwards? Oh, there's another peak afterwards, which takes us to this Mole Fameau. This looks like it's a match because it's the height. Looks like it's high. So if we then start coming down, so we're on the downside of Mole Fameau. Does it then go like up a little bit, a couple of little peaks, and then start tailing off after a long period? So up a little bit. There's another peak. Should start tailing off. Now we have this. This is a distinctive part. So let's see. Is there? It would be that one. Looks like it would be that end, that corner piece there. So if that's right, then the next evidence should tail off, and then start to come back up again. Tail off, and then start to come back up again. So now it looks like we're at this point. So we've gone to there, we've come down, we've come up. It looks like we're at this point. So it looks like this point would match this bit. So it's going a bit higher, So I'm beginning to lose track of where I am now. So maybe we're here now. And if we're here, then I'm expecting it to drop back down again and then come back up again and flatten off. So does it drop back down? Drops back down, then it comes back up again and then flattens off. So we appear to be matching everything so far. So it looks like we're about here now. But then as you can see, then it should drop back down and then it should be basically flat for the rest part of it. So it should drop back down and it should be basically flat for the rest part of it. So what it tells me at this point is that we've got the scale, we've got everything that we can identify, but everything on the far side of this, it doesn't work in terms of anything that's noticeable. You can't see anything that's distinctive at this far part of the thing. But that then asks you the question, well, what is the most distinctive part of the whole composite? And it's debatable. There's 2 or 3 points that you can pick. But for me, one of the most distinguishable points is this part here. But I prefer the biggest one that we saw, which was that Mount Fameau, which I think is this one. So if I now zoom this bit back out and then go back over to Mount Fameau, which is or Mole Fameau, which is this one, basically that looks like it matches what we saw before. If we agree that so far what we've managed to do is line everything up. So if Mole Fameau is what we have on screen, which I propose it is because it matches, everything matches in the picture, then that tells us that it's 1,800 feet, and from where we are, it's 50 miles away. So what we can do is we can type in Mole Fameau into here.
52 miles away, I think.
MOEL, and then Mole Fameau, because I've already had it, I've checked it before. And then this red line is where it takes me to. So I've put the red line into Mole Fameau. Now this mountain there, if I click on this mountain now, it tells me down in the corner, Google Earth, it says it's 1,818 feet. Now on Peak Finder, Mole Fameau says 1,808 feet. Now that's accurate. That's not mildly, it's not plus or minus 30 meters. That's accurate. 1,808 compared to 1,810. I mean, that's basically the same. So on this occasion, Google seems to be pretty accurate. I'm not going to say it's exact because I don't know which one's right, but I'm not going to tape measure it. I'm not going to argue over that. They both appear to be about right. Its distance, we know how far away it is because we've got the line on it. So let's just go back to the distance. One. So it's 52.2 miles. I'll keep that open. And I'll zoom back out because don't know why it's just done that. Cancel that. So 52.2. Let's drop that into the Metapunk because this is what they all use. 52.19 is what I had it for before. Now the viewer height in feet. What should we put this as, Ranty?
17.
17. So I think this is the maths that's already in place. We'll go straight to the refracted hidden because it saves us going into this. But essentially, 1,200 feet of that mountain should be hidden because it is hidden. So on Peak Finder, it says it's 1,800 feet, but Metabunk says 1,200 feet of it will be hidden. So that gives you, well, 1,250. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 50, 550 feet is what should be visible. Well, we know that the turbines are
606.
606 feet. There's a turbine right in the middle of the picture, and that the hub height of that sits at 606 feet. So if the turbines are falling behind the curve of the Earth, right, and the mountain has to go with it, and it's much further back, if the turbines are sit at 600 feet, then something that's like miles further behind it, but only got 500 feet visible, the mountain should be right on the horizon down here somewhere, right? That's what we should be seeing. But we're looking at the whole thing.
Well, the angular size would have changed. That mountain, even if you're only seeing 500 feet of it, its angular size would have only been half of that, so 250 in comparison with the turbine, basically.
So there's a turbine in the middle of the picture, and the hub height is about there. So the turbine is 600 feet, and we're seeing apparently, if we live on a ball, we're seeing 500 feet of the remainder of the mountain. At that distance, it should put it basically on the horizon, if you can see it at all. Bit of refraction, bit of obscurity on the horizon. Maybe not going to see any of it, but that's how much we actually see. So what's the crack? How is it possible that we can see so much of this mountain at such a distance away, 52 miles away? How is that possible if we live on a ball?
Can you go back to Peak Finder for me for a moment?
The answer, of course, is that it isn't, and you know so because you have to change your elevation to 100 feet to be able to identify these things, see them, and be able to deduce what you're looking at. And that in itself proves that we do not live on a ball.
You know that...
Anthony, you know it's just looming.
Yeah.
You know that nose part that was very distinguishable? I forget what it's called now. Can't see it on... Keep going. There. That part. Go back.
That bit there?
Yeah. What's that mountain called?
It's going to... Well, Mole Famu is there. So it's going to be... Can I zoom in a bit more? Sorry, I'll have to get it down your mic at the moment. So Mole Famu, it comes down and then there's a small peak. So it comes down, then there's the small peak. It comes up again and then flattens out before there's a peak. So it comes up again, flattens out before there's so it must be that one there, which it doesn't appear to have a name at this distance. I'd have to zoom in a bit more. The Mole Famu ... and then that peak there, I would say is that one, but it doesn't appear to have a label.
Well, have you got a name above it?
Well, Mole Sich or Psych.
Right, and what's the one next to that?
I can't even pronounce that one.
Well, if you can click some of them and just get some, let's do some.
Well, that one's 71 miles away, so I don't think we'll be seeing the one that it's identifying. We need the one that's labelled there, that little sticky up bit.
We'll scroll along a bit.
What do you mean, scroll along?
Well, find another mountain that we can see in the image, and let's do the curve calcs on that.
Well, we can go with this one because we can see that Mole Sich seems to drop down and then it comes back up shallowy, drops down and then comes back up. So if it drops down and then comes back up like to there,
well, we're definitely seeing them too.
That one. Yeah. Then it comes back down shallow and then comes back up again to there. So that would be that one. So Moley Park. So
can you do the curve calcs on them, please?
Yeah. So let's see if I can find Moley Park on there. Mole.
Well, all you need to do is add another 1.5 miles onto Moley Park. So if you click Moley Park now and it tells you the distance in miles.
Yeah, but I wanna
Peak Finder.
All right, so there's Moley Park. So let's put on the elevation according to this is 1,100 feet. On that one it says 1,296. So let's do the distance. Oop. So the distance is 48.4 miles. So 48.4. And then the same observer height gives you a refracted hidden of 1050, right? So 1050 on a mountain that is 1,296 feet. So 1050 to 1,300, right? So let's go back to the evidence.
So why are you using
mountain is meant to be 300 feet and the turbines are 600 feet. So at the distance away that they should be on the horizon and very compressed, but they're not. They're sat way above the height of the turbines. And the only explanation that you can logically deduce from this is that we're on a flat plane, because that should not be that big, nowhere near that big.
Yeah, but why are you automatically deferring back to the refracted hidden?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
That's their maths.
Yeah, but why are you using their maths?
Because that's what they're going to use.
But we're not arguing against them.
Well, that's what they're going to use to explain it.
Sorry, just before you get into this tete-a-tete about whether or not they should use refraction, I do agree with you, Ranty, but there's just one more thing I want you to round out with, Anthony, if you don't mind, before I stick the link out publicly. So if you can go back to Peak Finder and just make the first point you made again. So essentially what you got when you went to Peak Finder, when you put in his location and just set it to 0, what you actually end up with. Right,
so I'll use that mountain as the point. So we can identify Mole Famu. And to do that, we have to change the elevation from 0 to 100 meters or 330 feet. By doing that, you are negating the curvature of the Earth on a ball model, which this is what we are applying. If we drop it down to 0 or 20, whatever, we can't go with 70 feet. It's way too high. We're going to have to put it at 0 because that's the nearest one. You can't even see these things. They don't even exist. So if I spin back around to 180-ish degrees, for some reason, my computer's having a minute. Keep going round. Come on. You can see that if the Earth is in fact a ball, the only one mountain that we can see in the rough variation of where we are is this Warbrek. We shouldn't see any of these mountains.
Well, it's not even, if you click on that, it's not even a mountain.
No, that's not even a mountain. Whatever that is, it's close. But this is the bearing that we're looking at. There should be no mountains on the Welsh coast that we can see because of the curve of the Earth. Because there's the 0 point, that's the horizon, and there's, I don't know what the black line, but I'm not sure what the black line is above it. But the point is, there is nothing on display on a ball, so you have to change the observer height up to 100 meters, then change it, and then flick it back around to 180. That in itself proves that we are not on a ball. Anybody that thinks that that's a glitch in the computer system program, it's nonsense. That's literally, you're a Burke. Literally, that's what you are. So where's Mole Famu now? Can't even see it. Where is it? Mole Famu. There's Mole Famu. So let's zoom in. Now this is at the elevation of 100 feet, 100 meters or 300 feet. So where's Mole Famu gone? Lost it. I've lost Mole Famu. 180 degrees it was, wasn't it? There it is. So there's Mole Famu. That's what we've got on screen. We should only see 500 feet, was it? And it should be sat on the horizon if you could see it at all because of a bit of refraction. And if you want to exaggerate the effects of refraction, then we wouldn't probably even see it at all. But look how much we actually see. And the only reason that's possible is because we've negated the curvature of the Earth. That we live on a flat plane and there is no curve. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to do this.
So we have approximately 1.5 hours left on this live stream. Hope you're all enjoying the presentation. If you'd like to join the panel, simply click the link that is in the info box with your page muted to join and express your views on the shape of the Earth. Please do not swear if you join. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Please also share the show, as this increases the chances of a more diverse panel. As I say, there is approximately 1.5 hours left on this live stream. Good job, gentlemen. Hopefully that's triggered a few people. Did you want to show something, Ranty?
Yeah. Let
You're
me
up.
know when I'm presenting.
You're on.
Okay. This was the first observation that we got Chris Monk to model. And this was from basically saying South Pier. So I was down at South Pier and I looked through the pier itself into the mountains in the background and saw the turbines. I'll show you on Google Earth. I'll have to get rid of all these other lines because they'll just put me off otherwise. Let's get rid of that, and that. Right. do that one as well. So this is the line of sight. Here we go. So here I was. This is where I took the image from. I looked underneath the pier, through the wind turbines and towards the mountains in the background. What we have is a very distinct turbine on this line of sight. It's in the back wind farm, which is the Burbo Bank extension, and the name of it is L05. And slightly to the left of that, we also have another big turbine, which is M05. So the line of sight for this is big turbine, 3 small turbines, big turbine, 3 small turbines. So we've got big turbine, 3 small turbines, big turbine, 3 small turbines. Then we cross over, we've got another 3 small turbines and 2 big. So we've got another 3 small turbines here and 2 big in the background. So line of sight is absolutely perfect. It takes us to, where are we? This mountain range here. Just scroll in and show you. And what we're looking at is this here, this particular part. And if I show you the image, again, this is the lining it up. Am I still sharing?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so I've just gone silent, that's all. So here we have the mountain range in the background all lining up. This red line was just a line that I put in to match up this turbine. So this would be the line of sight for this turbine where it actually touches the mountain in the background. So when we was trying to work out, the height of this turbine is 606 feet. And the mountain behind it, the top of the mountain, is about 1,300. So at this point here, where it lines up on the hill, I should really go and check that out, exactly what that height is. Let's go and see, shall we? It would be interesting to know that rather than just guessing. Keep getting messages, right? Okay, so we are looking at, again, 1,300 feet here in this exact location. So when Chris modelled it, who keeps messaging in the side chat? It's annoying. So yeah, so 606 feet, 1,300 feet. And when we modelled it, and I think this is what the QED is going to be about, is this observation, not the composite. So as you can see, this mountain should be below the height of the turbine if we lived on a flat Earth, if we lived on a ball, simply because that is twice as far away as the turbine. So angular size and height of the drop and the curve of the Earth and everything else that goes with it, this mountain range here should appear below the turbine height, around about here where my cursor is. So the fact that we're seeing it like this only goes to prove that we are living on a flat plane, and that there was a lot of work to get these wind turbines exact in location, but it was worth it because now we can identify anything at all, any mountain range from any location looking south from any of these locations.
Just to let you know, I've passed the link chat or the Hangout link to Glenn. You know, Ruhif, because apparently he wants to talk about the turbines. Oh, Fireball! Let's get rid of him.
Fireball's here.
Get rid of him.
Kick us all out.
Hang on, have you gone public with the link?
Yeah. Ah, and he's managed to kick everyone. It just generates 5 minutes work for me every single time he joins. Okay.
I didn't know you'd shared the link.
Yeah. Well, I literally did a link and said to the entire audience.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry. Otherwise, I'd have had another page
All
open.
right, don't worry. I'm just going to get.
Do you want to drop this Hangout and then redo a Hangout?
Exactly. If you drop this one, I'll send you the link in about 10 seconds. Welcome back. That was, what, 2 minutes worth of aggravation? Just
Yeah, I was
suddenly-
waiting for that little. I was going to swear then. I've been waiting for him, but then I'm presenting, and I
About
couldn't
it.
snipe the little sugar bum before he came in and did it. That's Anthony's failure.
I'll
I
put
didn't
the
even
link
say
out.
that he was going public.
The link will go back out in about 5 minutes.
Right. Okay. Because I was ready for that little.
And don't forget, though, they have to snipe at this point, because if they know that we're destroying the ball, they have to come in and do it.
It's not really the best tactics. If they just let some regular globers come in and just talk all over us, that works much better.
And of course, when you criticize us for having like an echo chamber, well, that only happens when we have that much disruption that we retire back to Skype. And when that happens, yeah, it's a bit of an echo chamber. But if you trigger it in the first place, then you create the echo chamber yourself.
How do you turn off notifications? Because I am peed off with this Glenn Williamson.
Why doesn't he just join? Send him the new link.
I'll send that link.
You know, I want to try and present something, and every time I get a message, it keeps on.
You have to click on the circle in the right. Click on the circle. Oh, hang on. Oh no, it's the 3 circles. Click the 3 circles, then settings, and then it says notification settings, and then you can turn off play sound for incoming IM in current chat.
What do you mean the 3 circles?
Where it says search Skype, and then you got the magnifying glass, and then you got the plus.
So shout out to Nathan's looming rage burst.
Okay, plus.
There's the 3 dots above the plus sign.
No, I've not got that.
Oh, it might be because you're on. It might be because you're on Noah's system.
All right. Okay. And I just wanted to show you the video that I took.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want me to stick you on?
Just trying to
Remember
make
when you're
sure
ready.
that I've got the exact right one. Yeah, I think that's the first one that I took. Yes, I'll just pause that and then. Oh my god.
Sorry, that was me. You still need to find out how to turn off notifiers. It's down to you.
Oh, is it? Right,
Yeah.
okay. Right, so yeah, so this was the video that I took from the same location. So let me know when I'm sharing.
You're not sharing at all.
Oh, why not?
No.
What?
There's no little box in your window with the screen share
Screen
icon.
share. Share.
There you go.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Right. So we're ready to go. So from Google Earth, I'll show you where I was. Yeah. So this was my location on Google Earth, which is further away than Cleveland's Beach. Cleveland's Beach is way down here. So we're a fair way away, and I'm looking over towards the Welsh Mountains, past North Pier, which is here. This is North Pier. So when it comes into focus, this is the first thing that you'll see, which is North Pier. And then obviously behind that, we have the wind farms, which are through here, and then the mountains behind it. So I'll show you the video. I like showing how crap I am at doing this stuff. There's North Pier, and there's the mountains behind, and this is what I got on a video. Obviously, the composite is taken from images that I took, but you can see that there's no hocus pocus going on here.
Remember, we had to compensate our elevation by 100 feet, 100 meters, 300 feet to be able to see this on the ball model on Peak Finder.
Yeah.
Well, can you see how much? Can you see how much further I actually get if I go back here and then the composite actually stops at the platform, and I'll pause it on the platform when it comes into view. So this is where I stop taking the images. Where are we? There we go. So there's the platform, and then literally I took this video, and then when I started taking the images, all of this disappeared. I couldn't see it. It was pointless taking any images because it was all whitewashed. But on the video itself, you'll see how much extra land there is. Here we go. Turbines, turbines, hills, turbines, turbines, more hills, turbines, more hills. You still see it. And then I lose focus. And that's it. So the span is massive. I mean, where it ends on the composite, which is this platform here, essentially what I'm ending up looking at are these mountains behind here. Because that's where the composite ends, and there's the line of sight for that. This one. There's the composite ends. And then we've got all this extra that we're looking at here. All these mountains further on. I'll just put a line of sight, you know, just a distance from there, say. Let's see how far that was. 67 miles. So if anyone wants to have a copy of the video, they can do. Just let me know and I'll upload it onto Google Drive. And they can have a go at telling us what we should and shouldn't have seen.
Can you not just publish it on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, I could do that.
It's a video. I mean, it's like 3 minutes work, so you may as well.
Yeah. No description, just roughly where I was, and I could do that in the description
box.
It's
up to you. If it were mine, I'd just narrate it. I'd just say, here's what we see. We shouldn't see any of it if we live on a sphere.
There's, let's see, I think I took another video, actually. Let's see. This was a bit later. Again, it's just getting the focus. It's quite, I say it's easy to focus with a P900. For the most part it is, but once you get a bit of sunshine going into the lens, it automatically out of focuses things. So again, this is the same peninsula, but a bit later on, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes later. So if people are trying to say that this is a hologram, but you can see I'm not seeing as much.
How you doing?
Can you see that I don't actually see as much?
Hold on, Ranty. How are you, Rudy?
Yeah.
How you doing? Good to have you.
Good.
Yeah. So when I stop seeing the mountain ranges, I don't see quite, like for here, for instance, I can't see the mountains now. But on that first video, I panned across for another probably 5 or 10 degrees, but I can't see it now. This was just a matter of maybe 10 minutes later. And when I scroll back out, I can show you exactly where I was, so that there's no debating where I was taking the images from.
Come on, let Ruhif speak.
Sure.
I was just goaded into joining by Anthony. My only question is, what is your explanation for these turbine blades hitting the water?
Well, that's the thing, you see. I mean, we've always said that there's obstruction at the horizon and things get merged and blended into stuff, i.e. the boats that I took from different elevations and showed how that was disappearing from the hull up. It's the same sort of thing that we've always said. We've always said that we are not able to penetrate that layer and it distorts things. But the good thing about this observation is we're bypassing that obstruction and we're looking above that, and we're using things like the turbines, which are clearly higher than the obstruction at sea level. And we're looking at the mountains, which are further away, which are obviously higher than the obstruction at sea level. And we're able to compare them to known heights and determine that there is no curvature by using that method.
How do you determine the difference?
Sorry?
I was going to say, how do you determine the difference between the curvature obscuring the turbines and some sort of mirage? Because I don't see any like inferior mirage or any sort of interesting effect. I just see fairly clear horizon of water. So how do you determine the difference?
What do you mean?
Well, you're talking about some refraction layer close to the horizon, right? How do you? There's clearly no interesting phenomenon like the inferior mirage or the Fata Morgana or any of those.
Yeah,
cool
we're
things.
just seeing the mountains. That's it.
Those
talking
are
about the
over
turbines.
the refraction zone. The refraction
I'm
zone
talking
is
about the turbine.
where that first slant basically cuts off the image further down. And then there's a small band that gets a bit blurry.
I disagree that it's
The
blurry. I
mountains
mean that
are
the
blurry
Anglesey
because
video.
they're over the refraction zone. They're actually high enough to see on that distance.
I've
Sure.
got I have an explanation for you.
Yeah.
Nathan, would you present my screen? And Ruhif,
Yep.
if you'd click the link, if you click,
here. You want to?
somebody watch the back door while I'm doing it as well.
Hang on, let me get that up.
So, this is an article by the school, what was claimed to be the high school kids, which I'm not sure it is, but in any event, this is the one that's now missing off the internet, and this is the one
no. Come on, Anthony. We talked about this.
This is the one where I can't remember the guy's name, but he came on and he said that he couldn't find anything physically wrong with this from a physics point of view. In this article, we can see halfway down, it talks about some of the atmospheric phenomena. And we can see in this part, 9.3, it's something that's described as the vanishing zone. For every object, there is an area which the light cannot reach. The turbines would be an object, and there is an area that the light cannot reach. The area is called the vanishing zone, and it's shaded in grey in the figure below. When the observer is located inside the vanishing zone, the object will be invisible to the observer as no light can reach the observer. We find the vanishing zone in our program as well. If we were to continue...
What's the scale there? What's the axes?
No idea. But what I can tell you is that it appears that... What it appears is that the light appears to drop before it then starts to raise, and then it disappears behind into a vanishing point.
Hi, Johnson. How you doing? You need to say something. If you join, say something immediately.
So whatever the scale is, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. But this is saying that the light will appear to bend down in the foreground, then it'll start to raise back up again, which is consistent with what we do seem to see. Things do appear to bend a little bit down towards the horizon, in this case, the turbines. But then it'll start to raise in the background, which could be this thing that Rob Skiba talks about, where it appears to be atmospherically magnified in some way, which would be giving it the perception of elevation. But then we can't see it anymore as the distance increases. And that appears to be what we're seeing. We're seeing the point where the turbines are being bent downwards a little bit, but if we were to zoom further out, they would then start to stretch, and then beyond that point, they'd become invisible. That's what I would say is a reasonable interpretation of what we're seeing based on physics, based on a cited paper. Unless you've got anything to the contrary, perhaps that was what we should be accepting.
Well, I think
I've read the paper, so I've got no comment on the paper.
Okay, Ruhif, could I ask you if I ask you something? If you have two buildings, and one building is 10 feet high and the building behind it is 20 feet high, and they are the same distance apart from you. So basically, when you look at the top of the 10 feet one, you can see the top of the 20 feet one. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 0 feet. Yeah, I understand your point. Yeah. You're drawing a.
So if you can't see the bottom of it because it's obscured by dirty air, let's say it's the dirty air scenario again, but you can clearly see the tops of them, and they line up as you would expect on a flat plane. They're consistent with the same height differential, aspect ratio and all that looks the same, but you can't see the bottom. Would you say that it was that was sort of like a contradiction for both the ball and the flat? Unless you was to say that, okay, there's obstruction at the horizon, which is what we've always said, and it's not curvature that you're seeing. It's just obstruction. Because if the top's match up.
Yeah, but I would still say the obstruction is curvature. I mean, that video that I pointed out the other day of Anglesey,
That's
the
So
Okay.
the mountain in the
Hold on,
background.
Ranty. Hold on. You got about 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, the video I posted the other day where the guy identified Anglesey, that was one of the clearest videos I've seen where the turbines are underwater, and the horizon is very clear. So there's no sort of blurry refraction zone or vanishing zone or whatever you want to call it. The water is calm and it's very very focused, and I cannot imagine how you can explain that away without curvature.
Well, that's
how do you-
very
how do you
easy to
explain
do.
Anthony literally
behind
just did
what
that.
you can see.
Literally just
There's the
like 2
finishing.
minutes ago, Anthony did exactly that. Do you disagree with what he explained based on the paper that he got from these high school kids?
Given that he didn't know the axes of the graph, I don't think he explained anything. Like, I have to go back and read that paper now.
So
Okay,
do
I'll
you
drop it for you in
fundamentally
chat.
disagree with it, yes or no?
Oh, I've got it.
I mean, there's
Sorry,
been
do I
several.
agree or do I disagree?
Okay, there's been several explanations, one by Arev, one by Arwin, and one by these apparent high school kids, and they're all alluding to exactly the same thing, a zone that you simply cannot see at a certain altitude.
Or distance.
Yeah,
Precisely.
I have to read the paper.
Okay.
That's what it
Okay,
comes down
fair
to.
enough.
I've sent you the paper in chat.
Yeah, I know I've actually got the paper already, but it was I was looking at the authorship of it.
Why don't
Okay,
you just
I mean,
read it
just
instead of looking
just
at
one
the
more thing.
author?
So,
Yeah,
Ranty has
sure.
presented examples of these blades going in and out of a refraction line and doubling themselves up and showing obvious signs of refraction. Have you seen those examples?
No, is this in this hangout or a previous one?
Well, Ranty's shown them on several occasions where we've literally got him looking at the wind turbines and them dipping in and out of a refractive band. Admittedly, is closer, but it means you can see this effect clearer. But there is definitely a band of obvious discernible refraction. The reason I point it out is earlier you said, hold on, just 1 second, Ruhif, I'm nearly there, my point's nearly there. Earlier you said there's no examples of actual refraction going on, and yet in the globe model we must accept that everything beyond the horizon is being refracted at 76R assumptively around a curve, correct? Even though there's no refractive effects for any of the top of Snæ Fell or any of the things we see on the Isle of Man. None of those things have any discernible effects of refraction, yet we must accept your presumptive argument that there is refraction happening on all of it, correct?
I think the top of Snæ Fell should be refracted, yes.
Right, so what you're saying is, even though you're asking us to find examples of refraction for these wind turbines, which absolutely can be done, we can demonstrate actual refraction effects happening, you ask us to accept that all of the top of the mountain, which in theory I would say we should have direct line of sight with, but we absolutely do not. It is a refracted effect, yet it scales perfectly and doesn't look in any way distorted, as you pointed out to us, with the bottom of the turbines.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Right, well,
I agree,
wouldn't you
Snæfell
agree then
should
in that
be,
case, if
should
you're
be
asking us, Ruhif, to evidence that there is refractive effects happening on these turbines, and we can, where is your evidence to show that the top of Snæfell Mountain is refracted?
I'm saying it's a theoretical thing. The top of Snæ Fell should be refracted, theoretically.
Right, so in other words, theoretically meaning there is no evidence of it.
Well, that's the question. How do you tell? Like when you
I'm
said
asking you
the
that question.
turbine
What
blades-
is the... I'll make the question a bit more clear. What evidence do you have that the entire Isle of Man is refracted?
It scales perfectly, like you say.
No, not the maths, the evidence.
Do you agree it scales perfectly or no?
No, I say it's a flat plane and we have direct lines of sight, as you would
I've
expect.
heard you say several times that the whole Isle of Man scales perfectly.
When you apply refraction that you have no evidence for. I'm asking you to evidence, like you've just asked us to evidence, why the bottom of the wind turbines is obstructed. And I'm saying there are plenty of examples of the blades being refracted, actual evidence of refraction. Now, I've just got you pinned to the wall that all of the Isle of Man is refracted, every last sodding inch of it. Now, what's your evidence that it's actually being refracted in any way, shape or form?
The Isle of Man?
Are you deaf?
Well, are we talking about the turbines or Isle of Man?
I'm talking about the Isle of Man. We've established beyond any reasonable doubt that the entire Isle of Man, according to your model, is refracted. The entire bloody thing. So where's your evidence that it's refracted?
if it wasn't, if there was differing refraction between the top and the bottom, it would not scale perfectly. It'd be stretched or compressed or whatever.
What is your evidence for this presumption that it is being bent in perfect scale around a curve? What evidence suggests this is actually occurring?
It's your statement that it scales perfectly.
That's not evidence.
That is my evidence.
That's evidence that we have direct lines of
It's
sight
a
and that
agreed
it's
upon
just
fact.
as expected to be seen. I
That's an
want your
agreed upon
evidence
fact.
that it's being refracted. We have evidence to demonstrate refraction at the horizon with these turbines, as requested by you. Now I'm putting the shoe on the other foot and demanding you provide evidence, visual, to confirm that the entire Isle of Man is a refraction.
I've already explained it. We agree. It's a common fact between the two of us that it scales perfectly.
That's not evidence of refraction. That's an assumption based on maths that makes it
Well, it's an
look like
assumption
it
you're
looks on a
making as
flat
well.
plane. That's an account.
How are you
That
saying-
is a
how are you saying then
presumptive.
that it scales
That is
perfectly?
begging
And
the
what's your evidence
question.
that it scales
It
perfectly?
begs the question. That's all that does. It proves nothing. It just begs the question. So what evidence do you have that there is a refraction effect occurring that is bending light around the curve? What evidence do you have?
So again, back to this whole, do you think refraction is a thing? And I think both Skunk Bay and Soundly videos clearly show...
Sorry, you seem to be deaf. In the Isle of Man, the entire island is refracted. I've said it 3 times, not Skunk Bay. What evidence do you have that the entire sodding island is refracted? Evidence, Isle of Man.
Do I have to repeat myself?
Well, saying that it scales is not evidence. It's providing a theory.
It's common ground that it scales. Owen, it's common ground between myself and Nathan that it scales.
No, he
No,
doesn't.
you use an assumption that light is bending to make it scale, and I'm asking for evidence
And
of
that's-
that
again,
bending
we're
of
back- we're back
light.
to is the question.
Just saying that it
If-
scales and looks exactly the same as it does on a flat plane, coincidentally, and we agree that our bullshit maths with a presumption of refraction makes it scale perfectly isn't evidence. It's simply begging the question. I want evidence that refraction is actually occurring, just like you asked us for. Now, we can evidence refraction is occurring. I want you to do the same. Simple. Show us evidence where the Isle of Man is refracting across the entire island beyond the horizon, which is all of it. What evidence do you have?
Do we have common ground that refraction is occurring at the roughly the horizon level?
No.
Depends on-
What part of the entire bloody island don't you understand? Not the horizon. That's something we can evidence with these wind turbines. Now I'm talking about an entire bloody island that is affected by refraction, and I want you to evidence to me where that is occurring and how you prove it.
If the refraction is occurring at the horizon and just above, but not occurring at the level of Snaefell, then your image will be distorted. Do you
No, it
agree?
won't. We just have a direct line of sight with it. What an utterly preposterous statement. We see it because it's there and we have a direct line of sight. That's preposterous. I want you
I
to
don't think you
evidence
do.
why it's refracted as it must be in your model.
That's right, it is. And if it
No,
wasn't,
it is. Where's your evidence? Are you deaf? Not just assertions. Evidence. What proves that the entire bloody island is refracted around a curve?
can light bend? Yes, yes, it can.
Begging the question, what evidence do you have that it is?
Yeah, but how does it bend?
Soundly
Does
is-
it? Light does not really bend in a continuous, consistent curvature level. It bends in angles, as happens
What do you
in
mean
lensing
angles?
effects.
What do you mean bends in angles?
Well,
No,
it
let's not
bends
get
like a slant.
sidetracked. What
Put light
evidence
through
do
a
you
lens,
have that this
it-
is occurring? Do you have any? Yes or no?
Theoretically, yes. the
Not
top of Snape-
theoretically. How many times do I have to say the word evidence? I don't want your theory.
Well, again, it
I want
comes
your
back.
fucking evidence.
It comes back. Actually, Anthony, you there?
Yeah,
Can you read out what I said about 11 o'clock, please?
I can, but before I do, I'd like to challenge Sly Sparkane to come into chat. He reckons that I have confirmed the shape of the Earth using Peak Finder, I expressly stated it did not show the curvature of the Earth. It showed that the Earth was flat because we had to counter the curvature of the Earth by changing the elevation. Sly thinks that I proved the ball. Sly, get your ass into the chat. Tell me where it goes wrong. What did you say? At what time did you say?
At 10:39, you were goading me into joining, and I said I don't want to stay all night. So maybe at 11 p.m. I just start yelling, dropping C-bombs until Nathan kicks me out.
I'm not going to kick you out. I want you to provide evidence that refraction is occurring. The same evidence you asked for us when you asked us to explain why the wind turbines are dropping behind what you think is a curve, and we can actually evidence as being a refractive effect. Now I want you to evidence why I should accept that an entire island with absolutely no distortion whatsoever is being loomed around a curve using the same effect. Refraction.
Because
what evidence do you have? Not what theory, not what presupposed arguments. Don't beg the question. Give me evidence.
5 seconds, we could try and establish some common ground.
Not common ground, not theory, evidence. What evidence do you have that refraction is occurring to the top of Snaefell? What evidence do you have?
Okay, let me start. Do you accept that light bends in a curve?
When evidenced, when demonstrated as having done so. I'll answer your question. Yes, I accept that refraction occurs when there is evidence of refraction occurring. The kind of evidence that we have presented when we show the wind turbines being refracted below themselves. That would be evidence. So yes, I accept refraction occurs when there is evidence to accept it.
Okay, but it's a phenomenon that occurs. Okay.
Right, hang on. I don't accept that light bends in a curve.
Angle.
How do you not accept that?
Because when you apply,
there's no evidence for it.
When you apply the Snell's law, it shows that there is an angle created that is not a curve.
Yeah.
Light travels in straight lines. It can be refracted to a different angle. It does not bend. Light does not bend. It travels in straight lines.
The answer to your question is, what do I call an infinite number of whatever you said? An infinite number of
minute angles.
Negligible. That's what I call it.
I would call it a curve, and I think mathematics would call it a curve.
Yeah, that's begging the question. You are assuming that things are being infinitely refracted through a huge number of layers. I'm asking you to prove it.
No, it's a continuous layer. It's not like a piece of glass.
Is this a theoretical continuous layer, or do you actually have any sodding evidence of this? So you're just continually going to assert your theory, or you're going to actually prove that this is actually occurring?
I'm trying to establish how far I have to go back before you accept something that we have in common.
Right, I'll say it one more time. There is evidence of refraction occurring. That evidence can be shown at the horizon by us to account, as requested by you, for why these wind turbines dip. Now I've turned the tables, having told you there is evidence for this occurring. What you can provide to back up your assumptive argument that presupposes the outcome that there's a curve and that refraction is forcing the light to bend around it. I want some actual evidence of this.
Rue, if he's actually right, what he's saying is, if we're going to concede in any way that this is the subject of refraction, you need to prove that it is being refracted. Like, we can prove that the turbines are subject to refraction, they are being distorted. Where's the distortion on the land that makes it, like, proves that it is being refracted? And then you've got to show that it's being arced around a curve. But we can show with Skunk Bay that light bends up as well as down, not just down. So how would you show that it's being bent down?
But you accept that light bends.
No, we don't accept that light bends.
You don't accept light bends.
When you apply Snell's law,
it does, but the refraction that we actually can visually distinguish.
In straight lines, and the application of Snell's law gives you angular variations, not curves.
Yeah, and if you treat the atmosphere as like an infinite number of different layers, then it curves.
Right, but it can curve up as well as down.
Yes, it can, and that's the cause of mirages and all those phenomenons that the.
Well, no. If looming is the result of atmospheric conditions bending light down in your maths, well, what happens when it bends light up in your maths?
Then you get the mirages.
No.
All the cool phenomenon.
No, it would chop the bottoms off the items, wouldn't it?
Yep. That creates a slant.
It would give you an inverted mirage. Chop the bottoms off things.
No, I'd have to draw that. Like the mirage would probably be mirrored, I would say.
No, it wouldn't be a mirage.
No, it creates the vanishing zone that
Correct.
you see.
Vanishing zone.
The refraction we get to see that is actually visible to us on the short run, very close to us in relation. That is the standard refraction that bends the light up, and that creates the vanishing zone. That gives the appearance of a curvature. Now, theoretically, let's just put it out there.
Question.
There could be a counter refraction that could basically negate the apparentness of this curvature, which you call looming. But it seems that all of you guys just can't really wrap your head around this one concept that could probably save you, and you just keep stumbling all over the place. I just don't get it. I don't get why you guys have so much trouble with establishing your own theory. All you have to do is just admit that you can't see curvature. That is all.
There is no
account for it. It's so freaking simple. Why can't you retards just get it?
Prove their position. They've got the rhetoric, but they've not got the evidence that goes with it.
I think we still need to establish whether you guys accept that light curves, and you're saying no.
Absolutely.
And I struggle to see how you can say that, given what?
Light does not bend.
Well, how do you explain Soundly's videos and Skunk Bay if light does not bend?
Right. Okay. So what you're saying is that light follows the curvature of the Earth, correct?
No. I'm regardless of your flat Earth versus globe Earth. The videos clearly show light bending. You got things in the background moving up and down.
Yeah, up and down.
Yeah.
But light isn't bending. Light is but when it's explained with the application of Snell's law, which requires a change in medium. But the result of the change in medium, which we're going to give you for the sake of the discussion, is that it will make an angle change of the light, not an arc. It's an angle change, and that angle can go up or down relative to the density it's going into.
Yeah, that is the standard refraction that we can see, that we can distinguish, that causes this optical curve. Theoretically, that does not mean that there could be no curvature somehow, but you can't actually see it. That's the whole freaking point. You idiot globers have to get over that even if there was any physical literal curvature, you cannot see it. You will never be able to see it. Get it in your freaking mind. Even if your curvature is real, you will never see it. Get over it, man. Get over it.
What the fuck,
you will never see your curvature. It doesn't exist visually. Why don't you just get it?
Why do you keep asking us to see curvature then if it's impossible to see anyway? That's the most contradictory thing you've ever said.
No, it's you guys that keep on insisting that you can see it. You can't. Even if it was there, theoretically.
Then why do you ask? What's the point of all these curvature tests? What's the point of asking us to show curvature if theoretically we cannot show it anyway?
Because you insist that it's all literal, that you can all just see it. You can't.
You claim that we live on a ball. Your science tells us we live on a ball. That requires a geometric drop as we get further and further away. The problem is it always appears to be flat, unless there's
except with the underwater turbine blades, yes.
Yeah, again, as I keep saying, we have evidence to show why that occurs. There is distortion layers. There is effects where the blades bend underneath themselves and are mirrored. These are demonstrable effects of refraction. The problem you have is we all need to assume that everything bends around a curve that we don't see using this refractive effect that we can evidence at the horizon, but it applies to everything beyond the horizon. It's complete nonsense, and it's begging the question. It's simply assuming the outcome in your presupposed argument. So why the hell should we accept any of it without evidence of curve and without evidence that light bends around said curve that you assume? Why? We don't have to assume any of this stuff if you don't have any evidence to suggest that it's actually occurring. We can evidence these blades. We can show where horizon level refraction actually occurs with evidence. You can't.
Just putting it out there, but I haven't seen your refraction evidence that you're talking about.
Ranty, do you have to hand, Ranty, your video with the blades being
standard
refracted.
refraction that we get to see causes the vanishing zone. It causes that the slant. That is actually there. We can see it every time on the horizon. All this footage, all these months. That is the standard refraction that we get to see.
Correct.
It disproves
see.
curvature, but there
Correct.
still may be a chance out there. But you're not getting it. You're not actually collecting it. You're just starting. You keep on referring back to that standard refraction and calling that curve. That's stupid. It's not the curve. We've disproven that is the curve. Stop falling back on that freaking argument and actually go collect some real evidence or make better formulas. Account for the visual missing curvature. Do something. Do something and stop wasting your own time.
Do you accept that light bends? And you say, no, I can't.
No, we don't say no. I'll say it again because it seems like you want to co-opt me. I've said about 5 times on this show. We accept the evidence that actually demonstrates refraction is occurring, like we can show and do show at the horizon. Your ball necessitates, in the case of the Isle of Man, that the entire island is being affected by refraction without any visual evidence of that actually occurring, other than at the horizon where we use real refraction and evidence it. You provide zero evidence and just say, let's look for a theoretical common ground. You see it as being able to be measured with straight lines. Well, what do you know? With our maths, we see the same thing, so it must be refraction, right? No. It means that we see it with straight lines, like we demonstrate. The fact that you can co-opt maths to make it appear the same doesn't mean you're seeing curvature. It means you're seeing a flat plane too. You just trick yourselves into thinking that there's a curve by using a presumptive argument that there's a light bending around the curve so that you can't see it. That's what Arwen's trying to get through to you. If they scale the same and look the same as with straight line measurements and simple trig, what you are observing is a flat plane observation. But you still think you can see curve.
Yeah, stop fooling yourself. Actually get to work on how that is supposed to work. How does light optically bend that ball into a plane? Because, hey, theoretically, that could actually be correct. But how does it work? Stop fooling yourself that the short visual refraction that we can actually see is the curve, because that's not the curve. It's refraction. We can prove it. We've proven it.
Yeah, I'm trying to ask a question to Arwen.
Get it right. Get
question
to work.
For you, Arwen. Yeah, right. You said a minute ago that light hits something and bends. Bends at an angle.
It's like a lens effect. The short-term refraction that we can actually see with cameras, with what we've been proving these last few months, is the refraction that bends the light up and creates that slant. That is the refraction that's actually quite easy to prove, that it is a visual effect. There may be other type of light bending effects that may affect the super long distance, but you guys haven't actually worked that out yet. Why don't you get to work and actually work that out and stop theorizing that light bends and is supposed to do that? Actually make a model for it. Make it work. Get to work.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure you can.
Light coming from a building off in the distance, wherever, at the base of the building. It comes up, it hits some layer. We agree that it hits some layer and bends once. Yes?
Use? What? Light from a building at the bottom, what?
Light from wherever. Light from wherever hits a layer of the atmosphere and it bends once.
No, it's refracted.
How does that work?
Light travels in straight lines. It is refracted, it changes direction and carries on in a straight line. It does not bend.
How many times does it change direction?
No, but if it reflects, then it can't bend. That doesn't work the same.
The problem you've got is the more times it bends or refracts or changes its angle, that's more times that the angle can go up as well as down.
Yeah, if it reflects on a surface, then it's not the same
atmosphere.
If it reflects on a surface, you have the glass fiber effect. That doesn't work in a way. That doesn't bend in a consistent curve. That doesn't work. You have to find something else to make that work.
It does if you have a consistent atmosphere.
Yeah, but we see on the Skunk Bay footage that we have a variable atmosphere, a continuously variable atmosphere.
Yes, and that's when you see the mirages, absolutely.
No, on the Skunk Bay footage, we don't see mirages that often in it. There is a little tiny bit in the middle, I agree. But for the bulk of it, we're seeing a little bit of distortion up and down throughout the whole day.
Yeah.
Right. So how many, to answer your question, how many changes would you need? However many changes you want, you can have. But you have to accept that the light can be bent up as well as down. And why is it that we've got to accept the light following the curve?
When I said there are variations up and down, I'm not necessarily saying that light in an absolute sense bends up all the time. I'm saying that the level of convex cave varies.
Agreed, but it varies convex and concave.
Yeah, but it's rarer for it to be physically.
We see it 50-50 in the Skunk Bay footage. So why is it that we've got to accept on this occasion it's only in your favour?
But you cannot make that statement.
Yeah, we can. We can see it. We can justify it with evidence that shows that light bends 50-50 up and down.
No, we had this discussion. Neither of us know what the starting point is.
Yeah, we do.
It might be like super refracted. No, we don't.
Soundly shows it perfectly in his little Tensis Bayou experiment.
No, you can't. How do you see from that video that there's zero refraction?
Because it settles down.
How do you know that the starting point's zero?
We
discussed this.
It settles down when there's an absence of light on sunlight and heat and convection. All that settles back down to a rest point. It makes logical and reasonable sense.
Where is that rest point?
Rest point would be the zero value.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Of course it does. Only if you want to believe that it's a ball that you could fudge it with some other explanation. Fine.
You have to work out the formulas to get it right, because there is the standard refraction that bends light up visually that we actually get to see. But if there's some other non-standard type refraction effect that bends light around the entire world, this entire ball somehow, then actually work out how that works, because it's not going to reflect on the upper layer of the atmosphere, because then it would be like a reflection effect. That's not a curve bending effect. It doesn't.
No way.
Lottie Sock just joined to boot everyone.
Yeah. Am I still here?
I'm still here, I think.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Ranty's still here. Am I still here?
Well, the thing is, they can't have him on because he's making a very poor argument for the ball Earth, and he's failing desperately, and that's why they need to boot him. So they boot the only Glober.
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here. We're all still here. Ranty's still here. Arwin got booted.
You know what? He was really quick to do that then, because I got him the minute he came in. I must have had a bit of lag.
Frustrating, because basically you've got the guy on the ropes.
The thing is, right, if you're going to argue that the light bends in the atmosphere, you have to agree that it bends 50% of the time going up as well. That means you've got to prove that the light on this occasion is bending down, and you can't. Nobody can. It's a moot point. But when you see it over and over and over again, and the arguments are always, well, it's always bending down in favor of a curved Earth. Well, that might work once or twice, but you can't have it over and over again, and we're getting the same kind of observations time and time again. It's not right. This is not consistent with science. Not always going to be in your favor. Sometimes a different minute of the day, it'll be bending up.
Give me a second. I'm going to get Arwin back on Skype.
I didn't remove it, Arwin.
No, Lottie Sock. I'm not whether or not it's Lottie. Who cares? But you know what I mean. It's someone who looks like Lottie.
Hello.
Hello.
They really didn't like me criticizing them, did they?
Well, they got rid of Ruhif too, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was just wondering why he kept basically denying everything.
Yeah, like that's the point.
It's pretty weird because it's pretty obvious by now that the standard refraction is the thing that we can actually see. And I keep on basically telling them that, well, what you have been making fun of, the whole looming thing, which seems ridiculous, could actually be a thing, but you'd have to work that out, how that actually works. And they have been failing to provide a good, solid theory in how that works. Because if light is gonna reflect on the atmosphere, that's not gonna have that effect. It's a reflection. It's like a reflection in a fiber optic cable. It's not a curving light effect. So there must be something else. They want their ball back.
Shout
Why
out
don't
to
they go work on that?
Riley would snipe Nathan if he could get away with it.
I'm going to do a very quick link as we've got a little over half an hour left. Hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. The link is still public, so if you would like to join the debate, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. Oop. Please also share the show, as sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share, share, share. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There's about 30, maybe 35 minutes left on this live stream. Slick.
So just a shout out to Slice Barcane, who thinks that somehow I managed to prove the globe with the Peak Finder.
Great.
Looks like I am going to have to start up a new hangout after all. Very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a minute, Arwin.
Can they still hear us?
Yeah, you and I are still here.
All right. Well, I'll just revert back to the Globers, and that is, this is probably also an issue that NASA has to deal with if the Earth was in fact a ball, which is still a theoretical possibility in my mind. I've never closed that part off. I'm that tenacious in that sense that I just keep open the theory. But there's just visual evidence just disproves the ball. So visuals alone can never prove the ball. It can only fool you into a short-term solution by replacing the slant caused by refraction. If you would assume that is curvature, then you could fool yourself that you could actually see the curvature. But technically, you cannot see the curvature, even if it was there, because evidence just disproves this. We have been disproving this. So there may still be a chance that there is a literal curvature, but visual evidence so far just doesn't point that out. It's easier to make a formula for a flat plane to work than it is for a ball. And so, yeah, you have to just progress in your optical science to actually get that done. So get to work. Stop trolling and actually get to some science work.
That's interesting. I had a new hangout, but the old hangout still seems to work. Let's just try that once more time with a completely different one. I might have done something
Arwin the
slightly
Triggered
wrong,
Wizard. Yeah,
I'm getting there.
That's me. I'm just so sick. Like, I like the ball theory. I like the whole concept. I like science fiction. But you people are just failing. You're failing your own damn theory. Why don't you get to work and actually make it work? Why do you resort to trolling and idiocy? Well, look how far your theory has brought the ball concept and science fiction so far. Why don't you just move on and actually work out more detail? Get to work. Stop trolling, stop wasting your own time, stop wasting everybody's time, stop using bullying tactics and actually get to work. If math can explain everything, well, work out the math then.
Yeah, but math can only explain stuff. It can't prove stuff.
Well, it can provide a framework that can eventually lead to proof. This is a thing that science and especially engineering has been riding onto. So math in itself does not prove everything, but it can provide a framework that can lead to proof. But you have to actually work out the depths. You have to figure out how things could work. You have to imagine it and imagine it the right way before you can actually find the proof. Now, we as flat earthers have it a lot easier because visuals just seem to point out that the earth is flat. That's like, well, if you go with Occam's razor, then we are on the right side of that razor. But hey, there's still more that could be done. And they're not doing it. They're giving up.
Arwin, maths can't prove causation. Cannot do it. It's simply arithmetic.
Sorry? What do you mean?
Cannot prove causation ever, unless you're trying to prove causation of the maths itself, in which case it then can. Maths is not causation. Causation is evidence, and that's what's required to prove stuff.
Okay.
Or to put it another way,
I'm just saying that math can provide a framework.
Well, it can make models as well. I mean, you can prove all day long using maths that there's a bend in the light that goes around a presupposed curve, but it doesn't prove it. It just presupposes it and mathematically calculates it. It doesn't prove anything.
That is correct indeed. But
it's
if
like
the math at least
argument
works out, it actually does work out, then that still leaves open how that, losing track. I'm just so disappointed at these Globers that they're not doing their best more. They're making it boring for us. They're making it too easy.
Right, should I risk sticking this link out to the public again? Got my fast mouse out. Right, the link is now public. Let's see how we get on for the last half an hour. Yesterday's show was extremely stressful.
How many times did you get sniped yesterday?
I think it was a similar number to today. I'm saying it because today's becoming the same. You put out some good information and people don't like it. They want to snipe the show. They want to shut up the only Glober on the panel while we hold his toes to the fire.
The funny thing is, it's Mark Taylor came back on the scene day before yesterday, I believe. And since then, the sniping's all started again. I don't see that as coincidence because he has a few sock accounts as well, so it makes absolute sense. Is it that Fireboy or something that he's called? It could be one of them or whatever. But yeah,
it could be Mark Taylor. I don't care who it is. It's just one of those. It's part of the show. You know, that's how the show rolls. And initially, that's kind of what I wanted to show. Obviously, now I'm more keen to keep things on track. Because there's more work being done by you guys, and that needs to be shown, and it needs to be debated. But that's what they don't want, and it's like, well, fine, that's how the show's always been formatted, and we will expose the fact that people don't want this information out there. People want to shut the show down, as Jamie Brown puts it. You know, they want to shut me down. I don't see it that way, but you know what I mean? People think they can shut the show down by coming in, muting me, removing the other guests. You know, now I'm a dab handed it. It's 2 minutes work, unless I cock up, which I did then, and then it's 5 minutes work. But so what?
But the other thing is, though, we allow you guys to do that. That's the key point. We don't have to allow you to come in and snipe us. We could just do it as an echo chamber. Remember that we allow you to do it.
Yeah, best be grateful.
Who was it that came in on the last attempt? I didn't even see anyone join.
I can't even remember now.
It was a Lottie soccer, I think.
Yeah, that's right. It was a Lottie sock.
Yeah, if you want to present me, Nathan,
You are.
Oh, am I? Right, okay. Yeah, because this is basically the video. I've stopped it at 0.44 on the video. And we have this turbine here and the mountain range behind it, which is interesting. It's actually past the platform. So I've put a line of sight into that, going over the exact wind turbine. And I'm just going to put the show elevation properties of that. So we're looking at around about 1,500 feet at 57 miles.
Hello, Alan. How you doing? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Straight on mute and I kicked you. I'm really sorry, Alan.
It wasn't the real Alan, I think.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't really him.
I'm sorry, Alan. That was me. You were just a little bit too slow because you went straight on mute. I kicked you. Sorry.
Right, 1,500 feet at 57 miles.
Oh.
Right, refracted hidden. You shouldn't even see it. Hidden 1,800 feet. So even with refraction, boys and girls, and this mountain range is higher than the wind turbines in the foreground. Right, you shouldn't even see that.
So you know when you were asking for Ruhif about evidence of refraction, this is evidence of like non-curvature. This is stuff that we can show that does not conform to your model. So if you're going to claim that this is somehow loomed, how are you going to prove that this is not real?
The thing is, we've only really analysed up to the platform, which is there. I haven't showed much of this. In fact, I think this is the first time you guys have seen this on today's Hangout, which is all this extra land going further. And really, I should try and get a composite of this together. Because it's going to be a lot of work taking it from a video to do this. What?
I think I might have just accidentally removed Arwin. Did I?
No, Arwin's on Skype.
I'm not in there.
Sorry, it's okay. Sorry, in that case it was Jim, but somebody else removed him before I did.
Me.
That's okay.
We'll look at some of the other stuff. I'll show you some of the images that I took on that day, that night time. You see, these are some of the ones that I got the composite from. I think they're obviously better than a video.
Nancy, what's the white object in the panoramic picture?
White object?
Yeah, go to the left, I think it is. To me, it looks like a cloud.
Where?
Keep going left. There.
This?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I've wondered the same thing because it's in. I don't think it's a cloud because it's in. Well, it could be a cloud because these were all taken at a similar time, but it's in some of the other images that were taken at a different time. So I don't think it's a cloud.
Well, can you see how misty it is? I mean, really. I mean, when I say that the 1 minute you could see these mountains with your eyes and the next you couldn't, that was literally how bad it was. So I have a, I mean, this is like, it's great evidence for now, but I'm sure this can be improved upon clarity-wise because it really was poor visibility on this day.
This is local to you. I mean, it's not like the Isle of Man where you've got a 4-hour trek to actually get to the damn place and then, just hope for the best and take your images. If it's a nice, sunny, clear day in the next couple of months, I'm sure you'll just get in the car and 10 minutes later, snap, 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 and you can start bringing out detail.
I will, absolutely. There's also some other mountain ranges that I'd like to try and see from the same location. So, for instance, I was looking at a different set of mountains over here. I think it's in the Lake District. But what I noticed was that over here, for instance, there is another mountain. You could just about make it out. So it was pointless me sticking to this and working off this, how far I could see, because ultimately I wasn't seeing all the mountains on that day. But there's plenty of places that I can do all this from, because just in this position here, I can see for what if I could line all these up, like say that mountain here is, let's suppose that's 20 miles away, and that one behind it's 40 miles away, but they're a similar height, then surely that mountain should be prospectively much lower because it's going over a curve. But of course, I'll need to work all this out. You know, this is a future project to work on. But it makes you wonder why they've tried to make us work at sea level, going across water to capture this sort of stuff. Because we know that we're meeting that band of obstruction. Realistically, I think we now need to start looking up.
Yeah, defy their maths. Go a bit higher, carry on looking up. You'll get all of it down to the base. Why not? As long as the distance is far enough and the differential between something in the foreground like this wind turbine and the thing in the background is sufficient, you can prove it's not curved. It's having multiple targets.
That's it. Having known heights of certain, objects of certain distances, you can work out how the background, the furthest thing away, should appear in relation to the thing in the foreground. So, if it's going over a curve, then it should reduce in size and go lower than the thing in the foreground, which we just don't see.
I mean, some of the American cityscapes, they're all obviously done by surveyors. They're done in the same way. They're surveyed in the same way. And there's, acres and acres and acres of land that's all butted up to each other and flat as a pancake. And these guys want us to assume that when you stand at one end of it and look at the other, it really bends because the stuff looks like it's bending. It's like, nah, the whole lot's been built flat. Just because there's an optical effect that makes you guys think that there's some sort of curvature going on at the horizon doesn't mean that everything in every image that's beyond the horizon is ever going to actually demonstrate a curve, because there simply isn't one. It's complete and utter nonsense.
And people will say, oh, well, the turbine's being propelled by the water, right? And no, it's just being obscured. It's difficult for us to put in words what we're actually seeing, but basically the mountain behind that should be lower than the turbine would prove the ball Earth, rather than seeing this turbine lapping this water here, because this is where the obstruction is. And we don't have all the answers as to what's going on. Maybe I don't know what's going on, but it isn't consistent with what we're seeing in the higher stuff.
Well, remember, Ranty, there is no science for a flat Earth, right? We're not expected to know.
But we know that we can see much further than they say we can.
Yeah,
we don't see curve.
Yeah, and their science expects us to have a presupposed argument that there is a curve and light's bending round it at 76R. No evidence provided whatsoever.
So, and they will always drag you back.
Not even that, they don't even have the theory for it complete.
Well, they do, but the problem with the theory, their calculation for it at least says 76R. But when we see Skunk Bay footage and we see Sound these little Tensors Bayou experiment with the lights on 8 poles or whatever, 8 stanchions, we see that the light bends up as well as down, so it should be plus or minus 78R.
Yeah, well, that's not complete.
Video,
so it's not complete.
Past this, for instance, every single thing past all the land that we see past here, and quite a lot of it before, if not all of it, should be hidden behind the curve of the Earth. Certainly all this should be. When I play the video, everything that we're seeing here, all this land that we are clearly seeing that rises higher than the actual height of the turbines, should be hidden behind the curve of the Earth. All of it.
Unless it's all looming, but they still have to work out how that actually works, and then put in the standard refraction that we actually do get to see in relation in there as well, and make it all work.
Well,
very
I want to see an experiment that somebody has actually refracted up a house, for instance, in perfect symmetry. beyond the
Well, it
curve.
has to be a
Totally
special
agree.
type of looming.
Totally agree, Ranty. So the simple analogy is you've got a hill in front of you and you can look to the top of the hill and you know that your mate's house is on the other side of it. When in human history have you been able to stand at the bottom of the hill and see your mate's house refracted to sit up on top of the hill? It's just nonsense. It never happens. You know, you get these distorted effects over water that are actually looming, that then suddenly have this extra word attributed to them. Extreme looming. It's like, what
It's
the bloody hell?
non-standard extreme looming.
Yeah. Shout out to Extreme Refraction Non-Standard Hyena. Whatever he's changed your name to now that he's got that little gem of extreme. It's like, no, looming, that's what the effect is called. And you expect us to accept that the entire image beyond the horizon is all looming without any evidence to show it whatsoever. Yet when we bring out papers that show this actual effect being demonstrated with evidence, it's wibbly wobbly distortions all over the place. But of course that becomes extreme. It's like, right, well, the fact that it's coming up from further and further and further beyond a curve, that's not extreme. You know, the fact that you've got to take an arc calculation to it that assumes there's a curve and assumes light bending through it, infinite numbers of refracted layers, constantly changing the straight lines of light to constantly bend it around a curve. It's like, you so much assumption in this, but you just accept it out of hand, and then your evidence to say that that's actually the case is because it looks exactly like a flat plane. That was essentially what Ruhif was saying. Oh, well, we all agree that it scales the same. In other words, what you see is what we see. It's like, yeah, but we just draw a straight line to it and calculate trig like a surveyor would do. You expect us to accept that there's a million layers of glass going through the atmosphere between here and there, refracting everything at multiple angles. It's like, how the hell are we supposed to accept that without a single shred of evidence to actually prove it?
Justice for Ranty.
I have a nice word for them they could use to describe this looming. They could either call it uniform parallel looming or reversed curvature looming. So there you go. Get some work for you. Get to work.
Shout out to uniform parallel reflection hyena.
Well, here we have the platform that we're seeing in the video. There's the platform. There it is. So everything to the right of this, these mountain ranges here, is what we're actually seeing on the video. So when I press play, you'll see that it's quite low lying, and then it rises up and it gets higher and higher. There's quite a high part, higher than the turbine. So we go over to the landmass over here, and I've pushed a couple of lines in, but we're actually seeing much further over here. 1,300 feet only, though, 1,400 feet. And it should be 1,800 feet beyond the curve. None of this should be seen.
Yeah, seen because it's flat. Simple as that.
Can I just say as well that Woz has asked, why is there no flat earth science? And I've just thought about it and thought, well, actually, FEC are doing flat earth science, aren't they? They're testing things that is like curvature and refraction and all this nonsense. And they're coming back with results that are not consistent with the curvature of the Earth. We do seem to have an element of science to us now. Ha. We just need to know what distances that were involved in that experiment.
Oh, well, that was fun. An hour and 3/4, a little bit of hassle in between, but I'm pretty sure we've got all of your demonstrations out, all of the explanations, a little bit of retort from Ruhif. What more can you ask for?
Slice Barkane, that's what we can ask for.
What, so we can educate him on how looming works?
No, he claimed that I proved that it was a ball Earth by the Peak Finder demonstration that required moving the elevation of the observer up to 100 meters or 300 feet, which we've had before, to be able to see beyond the curve of the Earth enough for us to be able to see stuff. So what more could we have? Bit of Slice Barkane would do. I'm up for a bit of dessert.
I wouldn't pay too much attention to Slice Barkane. If he doesn't understand how his model works to begin with, he's probably not the best person to argue it.
I know, but I wouldn't mind a bit of dessert.
Well, Slice Barkane did a hangout last night, and he had a very flattering image of yourself and Nathan. I don't know if you've seen that.
I don't watch Slice Arcane.
He was presenting it for quite a while on the screen, and then they went back to talking about the Blackpool observation and how they have no idea about this. They never talked about the Welsh Mountains. Apparently, they said we had new information, and they made a big fuss about this new information, but they didn't know what it was. So if they've been watching the debate over the last 3 days or so, they would know what we were talking about. They just chose to say that we had new information, but they had no idea what it was. They didn't want to address it. You know, so what the Chris Monk stuff.
What were they saying? They don't know what point we're making?
Yeah, they basically said that they didn't know. Flat. They didn't know what this new stuff had. You know, when Nathan did his little video explaining why he wasn't doing a hangout, and he said that Ranty's new evidence, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, they're on
they
about
said
the
that. Yeah, they said they had no idea what this was about.
Now do I.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But GeoStreamer was in the hangout, right? And GeoStreamer was in the chat when we were talking about the Welsh Mountains, and he never piped up and said, "Oh, they're talking about this," and directed them to the point. No, they obfuscated the truth. They just ignored it basically, and didn't address it.
Yeah, let me run this by you guys. GeoStreamer claims that we can measure the rotation of the Earth's spin on its axis by getting a vehicle that would travel with the Earth's spin in an east to west direction, and then spin the vehicle around and go the opposite way, going west to east. And basically, what he claims is that it's called the Eötvös effect. And what he claims is that you can show the rotation of the Earth by the increase on the centrifugal force when it goes with the spin of the Earth, and compare it to when it does not go with the spin of the Earth, and the weight of the mass of the weight that you're measuring changes. And I was ridiculous. Like, doing it on an east to west, don't you mean north to south? And he's like, no, east to west with the circumference, because I can see it changing north to south if you change your latitude up and down. But I had to think about it to see what he was getting at. And I thought that's actually a really good experiment to see whether or not the curvature of the Earth or the rotation of the Earth is present. Because I agree with him. If you have something that spins with the spin of the Earth, that would create a greater centrifuge on the item, and it would appear to be less. And then if you spin it the opposite way against the centrifuge of the Earth, then it would be weighing more because it's not being centrifuged out enough or as much as what it was before.
Yeah, and it would be detectable. All cars and all vehicles would all end up on the east side of the continent because they would run out of fuel if they go west.
Well, the claim is that if the circumferential speed of the Earth is around about 1,000 degrees at the equator, then if you go one way, say, I don't know, 30 mile an hour, and then go 30 mile an hour the opposite way, you're doing 30 mile an hour. There's a difference there, a differential of 60 mile an hour. That 60 mile an hour is measurable. That would, in fact, prove the rotation of the Earth. But when I asked him to prove evidence of this citation, there wasn't any. He produced a machine that he basically says that you put two weights on it and it's balanced in the middle. And when the weight spins against the curve of the Earth or the rotation of the Earth, it slows down. And then not realizing that then the other weight on the other side is going with the spin of the Earth, and that compensates for it perfectly. So that wouldn't work in theory anyway. But he produced something that showed that there was some measuring device to do it. But I'd like to see an actual experiment done where you could get the rotation of the Earth measured using the circumference speed, and showing the change in mass of the object when it goes one way with the spin of the Earth to when it goes the other way, which is against the spin of the Earth. There should be a detectable, measurable, and empirical proof that that is what you're testing. But get this, he suggested a good way of doing it would be to do it in a plane. And I'm like, how are we going to measure the spin of the Earth on a plane? And he said, well, the atmosphere moves with the Earth, right? I was like, oh, right. So the Coriolis effect is one of the most contentious issues. You're now going to cite the Coriolis. I said, if you put it on a plane and travel east and then travel west, you're not measuring the spin of the Earth, Burke. You're measuring like whatever's going on environmentally within that plane. So I said, it has to be pinned or bolted in some way to the Earth. Otherwise, you're not going to get you're going to get too many variables from a plane to be able to make any conclusions whatsoever. It has to be on the Earth. But he believes that the atmosphere goes round with the Earth, right? Which is nonsense.
Yeah, supposedly it is.
Go on.
No, it supposedly is. If the Earth was spinning, then the atmosphere is going with it. Otherwise, there would always be eternal winds, especially at the equator. And there's not really.
Yeah.
Except maybe very, very high up.
Right. Okay. Well, the point that I was making when I said about GeoStreamer and Slide in the Hangout last night was simply that there were people in there that knew about this new stuff that we're talking about, but they chose to keep their mouth shut and not speak about it so that it wasn't followed up on his channel.
Yeah, it's to do with how you publish the information, isn't it?
Well, no, it's to do with them purposely hiding the truth from the people that were listening to them. So they were doing a presentation, and it was basically just it was going after you and Nathan, basically, with a little bit of going after me, but mainly you two, and they were taking the piss out of you, basically. So when it came to the new stuff, they just laughed about it. New stuff, we don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, let's remind ourselves what happened last time I went to Sly's channel. He said that he wouldn't let Spurs Chemo on because Spurs didn't do his own research. And then I popped in like 2 minutes after this conversation, and I said, "Well, I'm here." I said, "Let me join," and he wouldn't let me join. Yet there's an open link every single day for Sly Sparkane to join, and he's been on once, and he was on for 2 minutes. Excuse me a sec.
Yeah. So the point was that they did know exactly what the new stuff was, but they chose to ignore it because it's so compelling that they couldn't debunk it. The stuff that Chris Monk has put together with the angular size of the turbine and the mountain is impossible to debunk. And that's why they chose to just ignore it and make out that he was just making up waffle again. Well, no, that's not the case. You there? Anybody? Or am I talking to myself?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, we're all listening.
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just horse manure, basically.
All this earth spinning stuff, it's so easy to disprove. You just use gyroscopes, and industry uses gyroscopes, and it's so easily disproven. Like, I personally think that the flatness of the earth itself is probably the harder to prove in comparison because of complexities of optics. Although, optics so far do favor our side, the flat earth side, but still it's harder to prove. While gyroscopes, it's so easy to just use them and just spin it up, keep it spinning all day, and see that it doesn't actually rotate 360 degrees, which it should if the earth was spinning 360 degrees in 24 hours. So, it doesn't happen.
So what sound they've been up to recently? Has he done anything recent?
He's been lying about the shape of the earth.
That was funny. Yesterday they showed us his drone footage, and it's like the horizon's rising as he rises. That's weird. Oh, well, the camera's doing something that we don't understand. It's like, well, how is this proof of anything? You don't know any of the variables.
Soundly's banana cam.
Yeah.
Needs his poncho boots.
Poncho boots and banana cam.
Anyway, when are we doing the QED for this?
Whatever you like. Try and get hold of Chris tonight. See if he's around. If he wants to do it, we'll do it then. It's mainly down to Chris. Obviously, with him being Canadian, he's totally different area of the world and therefore totally different time, and he works weird hours. So it's just one of those. As soon as we get hold of Chris, we'll all four of us get together and do a 20-minute, half-an-hour presentation.
And if anyone wants access to the video or any of the images, if they want to send me a message on YouTube, I'll directly give them a link to my Google Drive so that they can download it and check the evidence for themselves.
I mean, can you, Anthony, if you're there, can you round out by telling us again what exactly you did on Peak Finder when you first inputted this data, and why I did that little update which basically said it just seems too good to be true?
No.
Were you away from your keyboard a second, Anthony?
Oh, sorry. Did you ask me a question?
Yeah. Can you just go through before we started the show, we said I think this is something we should hammer home about Peak Finder in terms of, admittedly, initially at least, our ignorance of how it works. But then once we figured out how it worked, we sort of went, well, it shouldn't work like this. There's no way you should be able to adjust your elevation to bring mountains back from beyond the curve, which is essentially exactly what you have to do in Peak Finder if you want to see any of this stuff from Ranty's position.
Correct. I agree.
Unless
At
you
the end
have
of the day,
uniform
Peak
parallel
Finder is
reverse
supposed to be based
curvature
on a ball,
loopings.
and it's supposed to tell you which mountains you're looking at from your location based on your elevation, right? And when you put your elevation in or your location, if you're at the top of Mount Everest, it'll put you at the top of Mount Everest. If you're at the beach, it'll put you at the beach. There shouldn't be a manual override to change the elevation to see stuff that's behind the curve that you can see stuff in real world. So the mere fact that you have to change your elevation on Peak Finder to see mountains that we can actually see in real world means simply that we do not live on a ball. That compensation is an issue. Rumpus.
You're an idiot if you think that.
Prove that
Finder
is an idiot. Why is that idiotic?
Well, Peak Finder gives you the view that an observer has in the real world, which changes as you move up and down. So it reflects that. How you think that's a problem is incredible.
Well,
how do you move up and down if you're at the beach?
Have you been paying any attention, man?
But I haven't.
Have you been paying any attention? He demonstrated that you actually have to move up in the Peak Finder to actually get it to work the way that you observe with actual footage.
What footage?
Are you an idiot?
What footage are you referring to?
You'll have to watch the Hangout back because I think this is finished now.
Did you just come in like 5 minutes ago or something?
Back which I invalidated.
Huh?
Yeah,
you made a statement that's completely nonsensical in relation to the rest of the Hangout.
Which, unless you've got some new stuff, I mean, your shot of the shot of the wind turbine against the whatever it is, that mountain, I've invalidated that. I put a diagram up. I think was it 2 or 3 days ago. I showed you I put up a graphic showing you how you could see the mountains behind, and I even gave you the ratio. All the things you've shown have been exactly right. The wind turbines have exactly the right height. The mountains have exactly the right height.
Why don't you show us now? We haven't seen it, so maybe you can.
Sure. I'd like to see this.
Okay. Well, if I can. Okay. I mean, you might be referring to some new. Because I haven't been. I'm only around today because I had to go somewhere. So what? Is this? Is this the shot you're referring? Can you see that?
Yes. Where are we?
So there's a little bit. I've obviously put a lot of stuff on there, but this is the shot that I thought you were referring to. If you've got some new stuff, I heard you mention something about some new stuff in the earlier Hangout. But if this is the shot you created 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so in here we've got a wind turbine. You made some outrageous claim the other day that the height of the hill didn't match. This is all perfectly in order with the spherical Earth. The height of that wind turbine is exactly right, within 2 meters, 3 meters, correct, and that was within 2 meters to be on a spherical Earth. Both of those points, I mean, I can go through it, but obviously I was going to do a video on this, but it's within 2 or 3 meters of exactly where it should be to be compatible with spherical Earth. You're wrong. I mean, you made some strange. I didn't see your maths as to how you claimed I presume this is the particular wind turbine you're concerned with. Is this big one here between Penny Claudio and Morley Park? This one, there's the big turbine on the Berber Bank extension.
Yes, its number is L05.
Okay, I didn't look up the number. It's the one that's.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. And also a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of the live audience. No, to all of the debating panel for actually making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.